In 1974, Good Times gave America something it had never seen before. A poor black family fighting poverty with dignity, humor, and unbreakable love. For 5 seasons, the Evans family made us laugh until we cried, then cry until we laughed again. But while millions watched this family survive on screen, the real people behind those characters were fighting battles far more devastating than any script could contain. What happened after the cameras stopped rolling? Terminal illnesses, marriages that crumbled, deaths so sudden that families learned about them through news headlines. 50 years later, the truth is finally coming out, and you're not ready for what really happened to the cast of Good Times. Janet Dubois as Wilona Woods, the woman who sang while her heart broke. Janet Dubois was 42 when she became Wilona Woods. That sharp-tongued, fabulous neighbor who could read someone to filth 1 minute and offer comfort the next. America fell in love with her sass and style. What they didn't see: the woman returning to an empty Los Angeles apartment every night. A single mother struggling to feed 4 children after her marriage fell apart. Then came the heartbreak. In 1987, her son Raj Christo died of cancer at just 36 years old. Imagine burying your child while still showing up to make America laugh. Janet did it. Every single day. She became a triple threat: actress, singer, songwriter. She even wrote and performed "Movin' On Up," the iconic Jefferson's theme song. She worked herself into exhaustion, trying to outrun the pain of losing her son.
Because as you get older, your mind is not as sharp. You don't remember lines the way you'd like to. Seriously.
On February 17, 2020, at 87, Janet was found unresponsive in her Glendale home. Cardiac arrest. She was gone. Her net worth? $2 million. A modest sum compared to the joy she gave the world. But no amount of money could have filled the hole left by her son's death. Esther Roll as Florida Evans, the lioness who roared too loud. Esther Roll wasn't just playing a character. She was the moral backbone of Good Times. Born in 1920 in Pompano Beach, Florida, she brought Florida Evans to life at 53 with such fierce dignity that millions of black families finally saw themselves reflected with respect on national television. But behind closed doors, Esther was collapsing under the weight of her own convictions. Her 20-year marriage to Oscar Robinson imploded in 1975, right as her career peaked. With no children of her own, she poured all that maternal love into a fictional family while dealing with profound loneliness. Then came the explosion that almost destroyed her career. When writers turned JJ into a jiving, eye-rolling caricature, everything she fought against, Esther lost it. She believed it insulted the entire black community and walked off the show, refusing to return until they restored dignity to the portrayal of black families. That kind of integrity came with a brutal price. The stress, the battles, the pressure of representing her entire race took a physical toll. Diabetes ravaged her body until doctors had to amputate part of her foot in 1998.
I've never run around Hollywood looking for work because I'm a sensitive person, and it has, for me, it brings back the auction block.
9 days after her 78th birthday on November 17, 1998, Esther Roll died from diabetes complications. Net worth, $2 million. But her real legacy? She taught Hollywood that black dignity was non-negotiable, even if it killed her trying. John Amos as James Evans Sr., the man who fought everyone, including his own daughter. John Amos became America's television father at 34. James Evans Sr. was tough, principled, the kind of dad who worked 3 jobs to keep his family together. Millions saw him as the gold standard of black fatherhood. The brutal irony? John couldn't hold his own family together. 2 failed marriages left scars that never healed. Then Good Times fired him in 1976 for calling out what he saw as racist, degrading portrayals of black characters.
But we managed to survive, and America loved that show. To this day, they love that show because it was closer to how most Americans lived at that time. And I would say in these economic times, most Americans are still doing whatever they have to do to survive, with underwater mortgages, etc.,
His career spiraled. His personal life shattered. He rebuilt himself through roots and coming to America.
They're McDonald's. I'm McDowell.
But behind every comeback was a family fracturing in private. In 2023, John filed a lawsuit accusing his own daughter of elder abuse. He later withdrew it, but the damage was done, proof that his home life had been broken for years. Diabetes and heart failure weakened him steadily. On August 21, 2024, John Amos died from heart failure at 84 in Los Angeles. Now here's the gut punch. His death was kept secret for over a month. His daughter found out through the news, not from family. He was quietly cremated 9 days later, and the world learned that the father of black television died alone, estranged from his own children. Net worth, $3 million. But even that couldn't buy back what he'd lost. Johnny Brown as Nathan Bookman, trapped in a fat suit. Johnny Brown was 38 when he became Nathan Bookman, the rotund, lovable building superintendent who made America laugh with his bumbling antics. But that role became his prison. After Bookman, Hollywood slammed every door on serious dramatic roles. Despite shining on Broadway in The Wiz, and earlier on Laugh-In, he was typecast as the funny fat superintendent. Every audition became a reminder that Hollywood saw him as a joke, not an artist. The real tragedy came when his wife of 60-plus years, June Brown, died. She'd been his anchor, his strength, his reason for pushing forward. Without her, Johnny was lost. Friends noticed the spark gone from his eyes. His health collapsed. A pacemaker kept his heart beating, but barely. On March 2, 2022, Johnny Brown collapsed outside a cardiologist's office, rushed to the hospital. Nothing could save him. He died at 84. Net worth, $1 million. A small legacy for a man who gave everything to make people laugh, even when he was dying inside. Ben Powers as Keith Anderson, The Slow Death of a Dream. Ben Powers was only 28 when he joined Good Times in 1978 as Keith Anderson, Thelma's football player boyfriend who represented hope and new beginnings. Off camera, Ben's life became a cautionary tale about Hollywood's cruelty. After Laugh-In and Good Times, he waited for the breakthrough role that never came. His decade-long marriage to Julia Harper held steady, but Ben privately struggled with watching his career fade into obscurity. In 1985, he left Hollywood, a surrender born of heartbreak. Then came the diagnosis: end-stage liver cancer. Ben fought alone, carrying the terror of death in silence as his body betrayed him day by day. He'd once commanded stages at Trinity Repertory Theater, but in the end, all he had were shallow breaths and time slipping away. Ben Powers died April 6, 2015, in Massachusetts at 64. Net worth, $500,000, a heartbreaking sum for someone who was supposed to be a star forever. Lou Gossett Jr. as Uncle Wilbert, the Oscar winner who nearly destroyed himself. Lou Gossett Jr. was 43 when he brought Uncle Wilbert's calm wisdom to Good Times. By then, he was already a legend. But here's the dark truth. 3 marriages, 3 divorces, 2 children watching their father spiral into fame's dark side. After winning the Oscar for An Officer and a Gentleman in 1983, Lou believed he'd finally made it. Instead, he fell into cocaine and alcohol addiction throughout the 1980s. Years of relapse and rehab followed as he confronted childhood trauma, being handcuffed to a tree simply for being black. Just as he regained stability, his body betrayed him. Prostate cancer, then COPD. He worked like a soldier through Stargate SG-1, Watchmen, Extant, and voice roles including Half-Life 2, refusing to let fans see him fragile. Lou Gossett Jr. died March 29, 2024, at a Santa Monica rehabilitation center at 87. COPD, heart failure, and atrial fibrillation overwhelmed him. Net worth, $10 million. But the real inheritance was an artistic legacy built on a lifetime of emotional scars. Moses Gunn as Carl Dixon, the genius Hollywood ignored. Moses Gunn was 47 when he played Carl Dixon in Good Times in 1977, the gentle, steady man who brought hope back into Florida's life. But Moses' story is one of artistic genius abandoned by Hollywood. Despite being celebrated as one of the greatest black stage actors of the 20th century, earning 2 Obie Awards and Tony and Emmy nominations, Hollywood gave him nothing but scattered supporting roles. He electrified audiences as Othello, yet every time he stepped onto a film set, he was reduced to a background character. That injustice wore down his spirit for decades. His body betrayed him too. Severe asthma since childhood, yet he kept working relentlessly to support his family. Shaft, Roots, Ragtime, Little House on the Prairie. The price? His breath fading year by year. Moses Gunn died December 16, 1993 in Connecticut from asthma complications at 64. Net worth, $1.5 million. modest compared to the monumental legacy he left on stage. Helen Martin as Weeping Wanda, A Century of Fighting Alone. Helen Martin was already 65 when she appeared as Weeping Wanda in Good Times in 1974. Let that sink in. She'd been fighting for recognition since the 1930s, when black performers were barely allowed on Broadway. 60 years of rejection, dismissal, and tiny roles. Yet Helen stood on stage, night after night. Here's the heartbreak. She had no one waiting at home, no family, no warm dinners, no one to ask how her day went. Just decades of loneliness longer than her entire career. When television finally noticed her in middle age, Good Times, 227, and sitcoms made her recognizable. But she once confessed on live TV that if she weren't an actress, she would have been an exotic dancer. The honest truth of someone who never had the freedom to live as she wanted. Helen Martin died March 25, 2000, in Monterey from a heart attack at 90, the oldest Good Times cast member to pass. Net worth, $1 million. But her true legacy was nearly a century spent fighting the world with talent, persistence, and the courage to live alone. Richard Ward as Henry Evans, the veteran who died days after his final scene. Richard Ward was 59 when he played Henry Evans, James's estranged father, in just a few episodes, but left one of the series' deepest emotional wounds. Before fame, Richard had been everything: a boxer, NYC police officer, World War II veteran, and a man who spent his life fighting for the right to stand on stage as a true artist. He stunned audiences portraying Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman, but financial instability aged him beyond his years. His late career success forced him to work non-stop. The Jeffersons, All in the Family, Starsky and Hutch. During Good Times Season 6 filming, no one knew his heart was failing. Richard Ward died only weeks after the final season wrapped, July 1, 1979, at 64 from a sudden heart attack. Net worth, $500,000. But his true value was the artistic legacy no money could measure. Jimmy Walker as J.J. Evans, the man who made America laugh while his heart broke. Jimmy Walker was just 26 when he joined Good Times in 1974 as J.J. Evans, the skinny, broke, explosive eldest son who turned tragedy into laughter with his catchphrase, "Dynamite," echoing across America. But here's the devastating truth that nobody talks about. Jimmy never married, never had children. That loneliness became suffocating. Worse, his own TV family blamed him for ruining the show. Esther Roll and John Amos, people he admired like real family, publicly said JJ had been turned into a clown, and they blamed Walker for it. When they left the show, Walker stayed behind alone, absorbing every criticism, later admitting those years caused sleepless nights and decades of guilt. The deepest wound. When Esther Roll died, Walker couldn't bring himself to attend her funeral. The woman he called his TV mother was buried, and he wasn't there. His post-Good Times life became small clubs and stand-up gigs, laughing loudly to drown out his own heartbreak. He once said, "I made America laugh, but no one knows how much I cried." In 2025, at 78 years old, Jimmy Walker still lives alone. Still does stand-up. Still carries JJ's shadow like a coat he can never remove. No wife, no children, no family waiting in his old age. Net worth, $10 million. But as he admitted, money never filled the space where family should be. And that's the real tragedy of the man who brought the brightest laughter to Good Times. 50 years have passed since Good Times changed television forever. Behind every laugh track was a real person, fighting battles we never saw. Addiction, loneliness, illness, estrangement, death. Some died too young, others lived too long alone. But every single one of them gave us something priceless. A window into a black family's dignity, resilience, and love that America desperately needed to see. Which story shocked you most? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe, because the truth behind television's greatest legends deserves to be told.